writing is resume writing. This word itself is a little. We will talk about that a little later. Resume is your first communication to your potential employers. And as I mentioned on the first day, it is a rejection process. Through the resume, they are trying to screen out some of the students who will be going for the next round of selection procedures. So, and it is one page, less than one page, at most one page document, wherein you have to try to convince the potential employers that you are a product which they are looking for. For example, you are the tomatoes for which for the dish they are going to make in their industries. So, and many students take it very lightly. And there is a difference between resume writing and resume building. There is a difference between resume, CV, and biodata. Many of us are having some vague ideas about resume building and resume writing, some vague idea about the difference between resume, CV, and biodata, and where what is most applicable. But then, as teachers, we must be having total clarity on this subject so that we can guide our students when they write their resume. And we have with us Madam Suditi Jindal, who talked to you about writing skills on Tuesday morning. So I will invite Madam Suditi Jindal to kindly engage the session on resume writing.
So the document is also open on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. So I hope the session's been going on well for everyone today and also otherwise. Today we are going to talk about resume writing, and I want to start off with resume building. Okay. But before we engage this session or begin with it, let's keep some kind of a background activity in our minds before we begin as to how to build our resume and write our resume. Suppose all of us wanted to buy a product, and let me generalize this, that we wanted to buy an exercycle. Okay, हमने exercycle खरीदनी है market से. And there are 2-3 features that we are actually looking for in it, and let me also assume those for you. First is that it should be motorized, not mechanical. Then the second thing is you want that it should have a digital display, which should have a calorie meter in it. Not only a speedometer in it or the distance covered, but also the calories burned by doing those exercises, by cycling that static cycle. And the third thing is that you want a bottle holder in it. So now you have a product in mind with 3 specifications that have to be met, that cannot be compromised, and you want to start purchasing that product. How do we begin that process? What would you do?
Market survey.
Okay, so first from the student. So first from the audience has Pramod ma'am has come here to give the answer.
Yeah.
And come ma'am, answer. Yes, come please. And she's saying the first step would be ma'am?
Market survey will be made.
Oh, thank you so much. So Pramod ma'am here is okay, so alright. So now we have that Pramod ma'am is saying that there will be a market survey wherein we'll search for all the shops in our vicinity, in our city.
Yeah.
And we'll also go online?
Yeah.
Yes, because
so
online shopping.
like, is there differences between the market rates and the online rates?
Yes, yes, okay. So now rate consideration is coming, but otherwise we were looking for that specification.
Features as well.
Yes, okay. Alright.
Is there any difference in features
Yes.
between online products and
Yes.
products available in the market?
Yes, and within that product, other constraints we'll apply. How is the after-sales services? Don't go. What's the durability of the product? What's the price and everything? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, after having done that, you would have a list of some products and shops selling that products? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, once you've done that, you would probably go and visit these shops either online or actually in reality.
Yeah.
Yes? And then whatever your experience is within those shops, you would then go and make the purchase depending upon the experience after looking at the products,
Make up our mind.
Yes.
Whether the product is fulfilling our all requirements, the features, the
Yes.
rate constraints.
yes, and then you finally decide. Yes, okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we've decided that, I hope the centers can also hear me. Now we've decided that there will be 4 steps. First is we are going to conduct a survey as to what all shops are selling the product that we want to purchase. Okay. Then secondly, we come to a list wherein online and otherwise that product with the specifications we have in mind, they are being sold in those shops. Then the third thing will happen is that we go and visit those shops, either virtually or in reality. Virtually means online jaake we look at the catalog, or in reality we go and look at the products on our own. And then ma'am said that after our own experience of personal interaction, looking at the products one by one and also seeing other constraints, added things besides the specifications will help me or her or anybody for that matter to make up her mind whether she's going to buy that product or not. Okay, now this is what is happening in campus placement induction also. The selection, as I pointed out, happens only in the last phase in personal interaction. And that I can compare with an interview, personal one-on-one interview. Before that, whatever advertisements of products or the information about the products is available, that can be compared to the resume that is sent out to the company or the organization by the candidates, to the consumers who can actually be converted into customers after one-on-one interaction has proved fruitful and successful. And in the entire procedure, the 4 steps that we enumerated, the first 3 steps are rejection phases. The consumers are rejecting what they do not want, and in the final stage, they're selecting what they want. Okay? So this should be kept in mind, and this kind of an orientation can be built up in the minds of the students as well, because this sensitizes them to the requirements of the consumers. Usually what happens is the students say, I have studied in this institution, I was promised that this course would fetch me these kind of jobs, but why do I not have an employment after this? Because they are not sensitized according to the requirements of the consumers. They don't know whether the consumer wants a motorized exercise cycle. They are unmindful of a digital display with calorie meter that the consumer specifically wants, and also the bottle holder. They think I'm an exercise cycle, so I'm good enough an exercise cycle, so I should be bought. Okay, so this kind of an exercise should be done with them so that they begin to sensitize themselves according to the needs of the company, the industry, make efforts on their own part to become aware as to what all is required on their end besides technical education in the form of soft skills and other added skills which will make them preferred over other exercises or other candidates with the same technical skills in line. Okay? Alright, so now let me continue with this activity further. We've landed up in the shop. We've selected a shop out of the list of 3-4 shops. We've reached a shop wherein we think that our product is available because we've researched it through the catalog and all. So I'm going to present 3 scenarios here. And we are going to compare the 3 scenarios, and then again I want you to answer. I hope the centers are listening because I would want the centers, one of the centers to interact with me on this, okay? Please listen to me carefully. So I am at the threshold of the shop. Shop के दरवाजे पे खड़ी हूँ, and these days we have paid salesmen. They are paid to tag themselves along with the customer who ends up in the shop, so that the customer does not leave without any product. He's taken care of, and also there is no shoplifting also. Because we have such huge shops these days, so difficult to manage by one person. Even CCTV cannot cover all the corners. So that person, that salesman, approaches you with a very pleasant smile, wishes you and everything, and then you also wish back, and you feel that okay, now I think I'm in safe hands. Mera kaam ban jayega aaj. Today my efforts would be rewarded. So he says, what do you want? And you say, I'm looking for exercises. He says, of course, we have so many of them, more than 20. Towards the other end of the shop, why don't you come along with me? And you are, very upbeat. Yes, ho jayega, and you walk along with him. But what happens is, he makes you stand put in front of the 20 odd products and says, yes, our exercises, these are all that we have. Please pick and choose for yourself. Okay? Let's keep this in mind. This is the first salesman. Then we have the second salesman, who's very reluctant and hesitant to approach you, but he does do that. Why? Because he has to justify his salary to the turning up. So when he approaches you very hesitantly, he says whether or not should he wish you go and greet him. Okay, good morning. I'm looking for exercises. So he's again very lost and even more lost than you are in the new shop. And he points to some vague direction. Yes, we have exercises. He hai. He said there's somewhere here. And then you know that I don't think I'll get the exercise that I want, or otherwise I'll have to spend a lot of time, make a lot of effort in locating where the display is, then going through them, and then finally coming out with a product which I know is available here because I have researched, which I know is available here, but I may or may not come across it instantaneously. It will be a lot of tedious effort on my part. Okay, so let's keep this scenario also wherein we have the disinterested and the unaware salesman interacting with you. Let's have the third scenario. A very pleasant salesman approaches you, greets you, you also greet, you're also feeling upbeat, yes, good person, he knows. And then you tell him, he asks you, what are you looking for? You say exercises. He says, yes, we have many of them on display at the back of the shop. Why don't you come along with me? And you say, of course. Then again, you're feeling a little upbeat, yes, ho sakta, you're still very hopeful. And then while you're walking along with him from the threshold, entrance of the shop, to the display, he asks you 3-4 questions. Is there something specific in mind? Then you rattle off those 3 points. Yes, मुझे motorized चाहिए, manual नहीं चाहिए. I want something which with the digital display which shows the calorie count, not only the speedometer or the distance cover. And I would prefer an exercise with a bottle holder in it. And then he says, yes, of course. And by the time you reach the display, he says, there are 5 products matching exactly your requirements. They are a little cut above or below each other. You can compare them, and if you do not find them according to your preference, you can take a look at the other products on display here. And let's keep this scenario also in our mind. So as a customer who's turned up at the threshold, now this question is to the centers, okay? As a customer who's turned up at the shop to make a purchase, and you come across these 3 types of salesmen, wherein do you think would you end up purchasing the product, the exercise? Wherein is the probability higher of a successful deal? May I contact somebody from, let's say, a different polytechnic? Yes, आप बता दीजिए. The ones who are in touch with us.
MC Saxena group of colleges.
Lucknow, from Lucknow?
हाँ जी.
Okay. MCSGOC Lucknow, are you able to hear me? Anybody here? There's just a simple question that I wanted to answer.
Hello?
Yes, good
Can
morning.
you hear me? Good morning, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
We'll go for the third one.
You will prefer the third one?
Yes, because he has the knowledge of the product, and also he's interacting with me, giving me the choice to select what I want from my personal view.
Yes, so he is he's going ahead with providing you what you want. Yes?
Pardon, I can't hear you.
Okay. I'm saying that the third salesman is aware and taking interest in what are your requirements, and keeping aside his own interest of probably getting a commission out of the sale, out of the deal. He is preferring to give you importance and make the show you the products which you would like. Is that so? Yes. Thank you. May I know your name, please?
Sumit Singh.
Thank you so much, Sumit Singh. And I believe everybody else here would also agree with this. Yes, the third salesman. So now the point of the whole activity was, usually when campus placement happens, the candidates who turn up for an interview or who interact with the company, they are the ones who are either the first salesman giving out every detail about every accomplishment or education they've had. Yes, then realizing that when the company has to go through such similar candidatures or portfolios by the number of hundreds even, do you think the recruiter would be interested? Don't you think the recruiter is going to be put off? His task is going to become so tedious because everybody has said everything about himself or herself. And therein, after the first few 20 candidates, the recruiter loses interest. And maybe our prized candidature, the one fitting the bill, is somewhere 25th or 30th down the line. And we do not get that much of attention and focus from the recruiter. So we don't have to be the first salesman, giving everything that we have. Yes? And sometimes we have students coming across as unaware, vague, with no clear idea as the second salesman. They do not know how to interact with the company. Therein, they might want to, despite every good intention that they have, they want to get inducted, but the company, the consumer at that time will hold the view that this person is not interested. This person lacks the drive to work with me or to work in any position. This person is not capable. So this is what has to be brought home to the students, that they have to become aware of the requirements of the company and how to go about asking questions. Now, this also done, there's another point that flows from this activity. It will not be helpful to begin this activity 10 or 15 days before campus placement, because just in case in my candidature I need to develop a bottle holder, I do not have enough time. I should have at least 6 months with me, that if I need to have a motorized exercise, if I need to develop A, B or C skill, I should have at least 6 months with me to start practicing that skill and display some level of, some degree of proficiency. Yes, so that is why writing a resume is just 1 hour job, but building a resume takes years to do so. And once, if this kind of an orientation is done with the students on the first day itself, during the first week when they join a college or an institution, telling them that these are the target companies which can employ you, these are the requirements of these companies, please select for yourself 1 or 2 companies wherein you would like to work, at what job profile, and besides the technical education, see what are the other skills that this company requires and start working on them. Then the students will have enough time to build their resume, to build their candidature according to the requirements. Now this is helpful, it's a win-win situation for everybody. It helps them to keep them focused on what is of value. It develops their personality, it nurtures an environment of learning in the institution, not only of technical education but other things which are very important in life. And also it helps to curb the dissatisfaction in the students, wherein they, at the end of the session with no employment at hand, they start off blaming fingers at their teachers, institutions, that we did not get any employment. Now they know why they did not get any employment. Okay? So now, keeping everything this in mind, let's begin today's session.
And outside the inspiration to the sessions in the class.
Yes, that is also that, they are, because they're focused and concentrated in the classroom, and I would feel that after the classroom also they keep themselves productively engaged. They are not engaged in otherwise activities or just whiling away time, because they have that useful time to build up a bottle holder, maybe digital display, maybe. Okay, let's begin today's session. As sir introduced, that most of us are unaware of the difference between the 3 documents, which we think we can interchangeably use these terms: biodata, CV and resume. Now, since resume is the most pertinent document for the students, I'm going to discuss that in detail. I will just give a brief overview of the other 2 documents. Let's begin with biodata. Now, biodata can be expanded into biographical data. When I look at the word biograph, I see bio and graph. Bio means details of my physiology. So a biodata is 80% personal in nature, which gives out details of my height, weight, gender, choices of religion, nationality. Sometimes detailed questions, sometimes questions requiring detailed answers, so much to the extent of 500-word answers. Essay type answers are also put forth by the company or organization regarding my personal choices. Why has there been a change in your academic career or choice of your academic courses midstream? Why did you change jobs or switch jobs around this time? If you have, then why? If you hold dual nationality, why are you holding dual nationality? Sometimes the students are asked to answer essay type questions requiring the statement of purpose. Why do they seek admission in this college and university? Why this course specifically only? What do the student expect to gain out of this course in university? What does the university stand to gain by allowing the student to join its role of students? These kind of questions are asked by either companies or educational institutions. Now, although we feel that it is 80% personal in nature, but biodata is the most important professional document we will ever make in our life. That is most important professional communication going out from an individual to an organization or an institution. A biodata is usually made when there is 10 to 12 years of work experience. So freshers cannot make it. But as I was saying earlier, the students can make it when they're seeking admissions to various universities for further research or maybe just to continue with their further studies. Now, the whole purpose of asking such in-depth or delving questions is that if you are going to be employed after 10 to 12 years of experience in a company, then you're going to occupy the top level management, not the middle rung even. आप एकदम टॉप पे होने वाले हैं. For example, at the post of a CEO, Chief Executive Officer, or Chief Operating Officer, COO. Then the single signature by that entity, by that designation, is going to control the resources, the fate, and the history of that organization for all times to come. So that company or that organization wants to know what is it that motivates you or drives you to take decisions, especially when you are the one who's going to take the decisions on your own without any consultation or evaluation or discussion with your peers or colleagues. Especially when the country is appointing ambassadors to countries, then it takes such in-depth analysis of the personality of the candidate before they are being called for interviews. Because the interviews for such high posts is also conducted by seasoned interviewers who do not come cheap. And they are the ones, and they are so sometimes so exclusively available that they are put off by the line or the kind of interviewees presented to them. So if the company or the organization wants to hire, outsource an interviewer who is very efficient in perfect for this job, he or she might be put up by a wrong candidature or a weak candidature put in front of them, and might not just get engaged with the company again. So the company itself or the organization, the government also takes care that the right person is selected, reaches the final stage, and others who are not are rejected. So a biodata runs 5 to 6 pages of an A4 size sheet. It is an ostentatious display of text. It carries a photograph. It is in chronological order. The description of skills may or may not be included, but it definitely has description of the academic courses, the academic accomplishments, and the various jobs, responsibilities, and posts held. Okay? So freshers for job purposes cannot make a biodata. And otherwise, experienced professionals can make after 10 to 12 years of work experience. Otherwise, research scholars can make for applying for research grants or further research in any prestigious institutions, wherein they need to give every detailed information about their professional work, which is just 20%, and about their personal involvement, passion, drive, motivation about that work or about that cause that they are indulging in. Okay? Let's move further to CV. Now, CV is a Latin term which means course of life. Again, I have two words here, course, over a period of time, and life, again meaning few personal details or more personal details. Now, CV is less personal in nature. It is about 40% personal in nature and 60% professional in nature. It is also used for professional purposes despite carrying personal information, but it does not have in-depth questions as asked in a biodata. A CV is usually made by professionals with 5 to 6 years of work experience. Again, the text is very ostentatiously displayed. There are borders, margins, photograph, very impressive. It is in the chronological order, beginning from the beginning and then whereon it continued. So biodata and a CV go on increasing. A CV may or may not have description of skills. It will just have description of or a bird's eye view of everything that you've done. So it will be most likely like what the first salesman was doing. So freshers can make a CV, but they will make a CV when they are appearing for an interview which is openly publicized in a newspaper or in any public platform, wherein the company or organization has given basic minimum qualification is this, and job profiles are 5 or 6 in number, vacancies for the same are n in number. So it is up to the recruiter who, when interviews an interviewee, for him to decide to know everything about the candidate and then decide in which job profile will this person fit. So when there is ambiguity from the part of the company, then a CV is presented by a fresher. Otherwise, it is preferable that freshers should not make a CV when they have a very relevant specific job profile in mind. Because for the specific job profile, there will be specifications like bottle holder, like calorie display meter. So according to that, it should be made. A CV runs 5 to 6, it runs 3 to 4 or maybe 2 pages also in length. Again, again A4 size sheet. It will have margins, ostentatious display. And here in the last point that I put up here on the slide, which says it lists out the jobs, key responsibility areas, and the skills. So the experience of 5 to 6 years is reflected in the number of jobs held by the candidate. What were the key responsibility areas as the public relations officers interacting within the organization, outside the organizations, and the various media vehicles? Skills were communication skills, writing skills, negotiation skills, and conflict resolution skills. So that is how a statement is made. But again, we have decided that for our students, resume is not relevant, especially when campus placement is happening. Okay, let's go on to resume. Resume is a French word which means summary. So the moment I say summary, I know it's brief. It has to be concise. But then how do I concise up all the information about me? Now this is very easy. I have to cater to the needs of the organization. That is why when initially we talked about this, that the students should be made aware and sensitive to the requirements of the industry, they start asking questions. How do they ask questions? First is they should ask questions to the training and placement officer in their academic institutions about the company. What has been the hiring policy of the company? What kind of students have been inducted? For example, in UICET, wherein I am very intricately involved in placement of the students, I know that when Reliance visits for campus placement for UICT students, they are not looking for performers who have more than 8 CGPA. So for students who are managing 8 CGPA comfortably, it's no point for them to make extra efforts to come up to the level of 9 or 10 CGPA if they want to get inducted with Reliance. If their personality, if their requirements cater to the needs of the requirements of Reliance. What else does Reliance need besides that? It needs only 8 CGPA. So then everybody with 8 CGPA should get inducted. No, they are not. Then what is it? They require that besides 8 CGPA, students should have good team building skills. They should be good team players. They should have physical strength and stamina. They should be flexible and adaptable. And they should have good communication skills. Why is all this required? Because students are going to work somewhere in Gujarat, away from the family and their parents. They should learn to live in new conditions wherein the culture, language, food, everything is going to be different. They are going to work on the shop floor wherein the physical conditions are very inclement for long hours. And besides that, the freshers are not only they are going to work as supervisors to workers who have more work experience than them. So the workers there will look down upon them. That this person who's just come out, this almost like a nestling who's just come out yesterday passed out from an academic institution, is trying to make sense into us. We've been practically handling these machines. So in that kind of a situation, the candidate should be able to resolve any kind of conflict that comes across. He should have good communication skills so that he can maintain decorum and the productivity and efficiency in that shop floor. And also he might be required to interact with the local clientele there. Okay, so now this kind of information is only given out to students once they ask questions. Okay, once they research the organization with the interaction with training and placement officer, getting in touch with their alumni who has been inducted with that company. Why were they inducted? What do they think were the points that worked in their favor as opposed to the points that were held by their peers? And how has working with the company been? Is it satisfactory, or is it, grass is greener on the other side of the fence? It seemed good from a far away distance, but once that candidate got involved into that company, it was not that good. And otherwise, the third step that the candidate or the student can do is visit the website of the company online. Visit all the links and pages, gather information. There is a scroll. Sometimes companies or websites have scrolls wherein employees can put up their comments, or there's an internal chit chat going on there. So that gives out a lot of information about the environment of the company. For example, if somebody is going to do a PhD, like I am going to pay, like I would like to, like I'm the content writer for one of the online web portals. I want to know, for me it's very important to be able to enhance and project my creativity, that I am given freedom. But if that organization is ruled by an iron rod, my creativity will have no space. I will have no say. So I will not be able to work there or sustain that work for a long period of time. So these are the ways wherein we can ask our students, encourage our students to interact, gather information, and summarize. Become to the point in a resume. Now, why am I saying to the point also? Like suppose there are, these kind of documents, it's to the point to the extent that there's just single page information in the form of a resume. उससे ज़्यादा resume की length नहीं होती. Just one page, one side, not the back side even, just one side of an A4 sheet. So when the recruiter is shortlisting who has to be called for the JD or PI, this is the vision area. This top area is the vision area, wherein I'm going to sift through so many pages of the same kind. And very rarely would the recruiter read the entire document. Yes? Because it's an in-depth analysis can be done in PI. यहाँ तक देखो सही है तो ठीक है. Yes? For that matter also, we need to work out the placement of the text, which we will do when we discuss the sample. So in this area itself, I should be giving out the juiciest information about myself according to the requirements of the company. So I should build it up in a period of some time, build up my resume and write it accordingly. Okay, so that is how I summarize, and that is why it is important to have a single page resume, and that is why resume is relevant for campus space. Okay. Then it should highlight only specific skills that also I have delved upon. Why? Because everybody passing out from the same course with the same education will have the same technical skills. It is these smaller soft skills that are going to make the difference. Like I took up the example of Reliance and explained. So when the student is aware of these requirements, he or she will work upon it from day one to build these up. How do I become a good team player? I start involving myself in some physical activity, sports activity, which is a team activity, rather than playing something alone like table tennis or maybe badminton even, which I can play in doubles. But that too is not that kind of a synchronization in a team as much as in a team of a larger strength, because that is where I would be required to project my skills in a professional setup. Okay, so that is how a student starts working on developing or building his resume, and it is customized according to the job profile needs. That according to the number of profiles or jobs I'm targeting, I can make those many number of resumes. So for every job, I can have a different resume, just displacing or formatting the text a little bit. For example, let's refer to the example of exercycle, wherein I'm an exercycle who has a bottle holder, who has a digital calorie display meter, and who's foldable. So out of the three requirements, I have only two things. But in lieu of the third one, the first one that I'm missing, I have something else, that is I'm foldable. And foldable is different, but that is not required. So how do I place it in a resume? I will not say first foldable, then digital calorie display meter, and then bottle holder. No. I will place them according to the preferences of the consumer. First preference comes on the top, even though it may or may not be my strongest skill. Second preference comes below it, even though it may or may not be my strongest or stronger skills. And then my strongest skill, which may or may not be required, but there is a dearth of skills display. Space मैं बहुत कम डाल रही हूँ अपने उसमें resume में कुछ है नहीं ज़्यादा डालने के लिए. There's a dearth there. Then I put that extra skill which may or may not be required by the company, and then it might just work in my favor. But please think that since it's a single page document and there is a paucity of space, If their space does not permit it, do not put up a skill that is not required by the company. We will know how to give out that information about our strongest skill during the interview. We can manage that through confidence and through the kind of answers. So through this resume document, we are even going to put questions in the mouth of the interviewer. We can anticipate 80% of our interview through our resume. It is that powerful a document. Okay? Alright. So let's move further. Once I talk about resume, I'll just quickly give 3 types of resumes because the students sometimes think that once ma'am has said resume, they can go to Google, download any kind of a format and use it. Resumes are also of 3 types. So they should know which one is most relevant to them. So please pass on that information to them. Functional resume focuses on skills only because education is the same for everybody. So it is the skills that is going to differentiate. So for the students, it is this one for campus placement. Now we talked about transferable skills, wherein I was saying the student starts participating in physical activities or sports activities which are team sports, for example, football or hockey, so that he knows how to develop physical strength and stamina and player skills or team building skills. So that is a skill acquired in a different setup, which can be taken up from there and applied in a professional setup. So the skill has been transferred. There is a lack of experience in our freshers, but that does not mean there is a dearth of skills in them. They are capable. They can be good orators. It is just that they have not had the opportunity to interact with clients, to negotiate with them, to influence them. But that still means that they can interact with clients, that they are good in oration and speaking. Okay? Alright, so that is how we highlight transferable skills. Then it is also used by people who have some experience with them. For example, mothers going on a sabbatical due to maternity leave. So they have the skill. They know how to, for example, one of my colleagues has headed on a maternity leave. She had been training candidates earlier. So she is a trainer. It's just that she's out of touch with it. But once she returns from a sabbatical, she can start up the sessions again. Yes, so there's no dearth of skill, there's just lack of experience there. So for those kind of candidates also with few years of experience or gap of, when there is a gap of work experience, gap in work, they can make functional resume. One more thing that has to be kept in mind in resumes is that it is always in reverse chronological order. So even if I'm talking here about chronological resume, it will be in reverse chronological order, wherein the most recent accomplishment, most recent job, most recent skill will be placed at the top, but again in requirement, in tandem with the requirements of the company, with the requirements of the job profile being targeted. Okay, so if there comes across a gap, कि आपका पहले ये है फिर बाद में है, why is the order some skewed this way? So they would know that in a resume, in a single page document, the relevancy and recentness is given more importance, freshness is given more importance as to what has been learned or acquired over the period of years. And it describes again when there has been a work experience of less than 5 years, let's say 1 or 2 years, then this kind of chronological resume can be made with the most recent job held. How do I list it out? The position, which was the company, which city, and from which duration, from month, year to month, year. So the month has to be complete. For August, I write August, comma, 2014 to July, comma, 2015. Okay, that is how I will write it down. But this again is not relevant for our freshers or candidates. Then I come to hybrid, which combines best of both the worlds. कहने को तो ऐसे होता है, but it is not so, because even the most expert professionals who are very well versed with formulating CVs, resumes, or biodatas go wrong here, because we might want to show in a brief period of 3 years or 4 years, we have been employed at 4 jobs, 2 to 4 jobs, or 3 or 4 jobs, and how to display that kind of variety in our career, in our profession. We want to use not only our academic accomplishments and skills, but also our job experience and skills. But then we can also come across as job hoppers. Why have you not been satisfied at one job for a long time? Why have you not stuck around? Do you think you get bored easily? Will we be able to retain you even though you have such a multifarious interest and such a multifarious knowledge, skill and ability to your credit? But do you think we'll be able to retain you for long? So this attempt should be made only when we are very careful that we can bring about a good balance in our accomplishments and in our skills and work experience without coming across as a dissatisfied person should we attempt it. And again, this is in reverse chronological order. Okay. Now let's come to the resume. Herein, I'll just begin now with the description and then we'll switch over to the sample. Now, the resume is usually broken into sections. It is a single-page document. No ostentatious display of text. We do not waste space. It is sparsely worded. कम words होने चाहिए, ज़्यादा खाली होना चाहिए. Just because it is so directed to the job profile, I will not use the first person in the resume because I have a bottle holder, I have digital display with calorimeter, I am motorized. Too much of I makes you sound too good to be true, or maybe makes you sound too pompous, overconfident. We need to avoid that. So it is always given as an objective approach to the accomplishments. Only when I am writing down my objective and the disclaimer in the resume can I use the first person. When I take up the example, that will be clearer to you. So there are three sections in a resume: header, main body, footer. The header and the footer occupy 10% personal space, so own page space. So only 80% is available for putting down all the attractive, juicy, and relevant information for the students. Okay, and it is a balance of responsibilities and accomplishments wherein skills get highlighted. Now let me shift your focus to the sample that I want to discuss with you. You can share this sample with your students also, and this will help them to word it. The statements will be clearer. As you can see, when I scroll down, you can see a line on the top of the page wherein I've placed my cursor right now. I'm moving that cursor. That line separates the header, and I scroll down. Then you see there's another line that separates the footer. I'm moving my cursor along that line. Yes? So now this is 10% of the page space, and as so is the above page space, which is 10%, which is going to be the same. You can see there are clearly three blocks in the header. The first block wherein we have written sample resume, second block wherein the name is written, and the third block wherein the address is there. Now this text is not aligned here because of the formatting in this. But otherwise, I would request you, let me try this if this can happen here. I want to show you how the text has to be aligned. Can you see me aligning the text in front of you, wherein I am shifting the beginning of each line below the other, below the one at the top. So now residential address, phone number and email are aligned along an imaginary margin in the inward right side of the sheet. Towards the outside of the right side of the sheet, the text is not aligned, and that is how we are going to work with it. Let's begin with the description of the header. Whenever this, now please treat the written document, the resume, the CV or the biodata as the print advertisement of any product. The product is the student who's going to get ready after education and enter the job market. So before any advertisement, we do not get the heading advertisement. कभी भी नहीं आता है, चाहे ऑडियो विजुअल आ रहा है या प्रिंट ऐड आ रहा है कि advertisement, उसके बाद प्रोडक्ट का नाम. So please do not write resume, CV or biodata on the document. The recruiter would know on his or her own self what is it that he or she is evaluating. So this area is left empty. Okay. What do I do here? My photograph does not go on a resume until unless required for. Herein, I want to specify, since the question of requirement has come up, if the company which is coming for campus placement induction has given out a format to the training and placement officer, to the academic institution, that this is how we want the information to be displayed, then please follow that format. If no format has been given, then we will follow this format of writing a resume. Building has already taken place. Okay, this is only when what has to be written, how has to be written is not provided by the company. Then if it is left up to us, this is how we align and display the text, format our resume. So here in this left side is left empty in a conventional functional resume because this is a space for the photograph. If it is asked for by a company, photograph दे देना. तो सिर्फ आप एक सा बोला है. So this is where the photograph goes. Now we have to keep 4 or 5 things in mind when we are talking about the photograph. It is not just any passport size photograph. It is specifically, if the student is appearing for an MNC or the student might just start working with a company which has its branch offices outside India. Then for visa documentation and further purposes, the photograph would be required against a white background. So let it be a photograph in the first instance only, a photograph against a white background. The second thing is ask your students to get a photograph clicked wherein the shoulder, the above portion, 80% of the face is visible. This much portion is actually the way they are going to turn up for work. Not that they are getting ready for any family function, they are looking nice so they can get a photograph click. It cannot be in any casual attire, the way they are going to turn up for work. So t-shirt is not accepted as workwear. Let it be a shirt with a collar. Okay? So these things should be passed on. White background, formal get up, ready. Second thing is, the photograph should not be stuck to the sheet because as it is a single page document, something like this, and the text will be like this, displayed like this, no borders, margin, nothing. Fine print or bold print, that is it. So it will look like any document, especially when the recruiters are there for campus placement. Many pages are lying on their desk, so this would be one of them. So I will not stick the photograph there because just in case the student is not carrying sufficient extra copies of this passport size photograph, it will be taken off from here. If it is stuck or even stapled, the page might tear. And a torn sheet, single sheet with any kind of ostentatious or different or standing out features on it might just look like a waste paper, especially in that commotion and confusion. So there's a likelihood of the candidature, maybe the preferred or selected candidature, landing into the dustbin. So we are not going to stick our photograph, but then how do I attach it? I'm going to attach it.
And paste it.
And, if they want to take the photograph from here, then for them it will not be possible. Then again the student will be at a loss as to how to provide an extra copy of my photograph. That can be done, scan and pasting can be done, Pramod ma'am, if the student is carrying sufficient copies, and that there could be 4 to 6 extra copies of the photograph that goes on the resume, the same one. Okay, but I don't know, sometimes they require 8, sometimes they require 16. So it's always good to go out with 16. But sometimes, when campus placement drive is happening, the students run short of extra copies of their passport size photograph. Yes. So until unless it is not specified कि scan करके यहाँ पे print out होना चाहिए, ऐसा नहीं है, then you can ask them to attach the photograph with a paper clip. Okay, on this side of the sheet. But then the student will again be, hesitant and might be doubtful that my photograph might get separated from the sheet because it is a temporary attachment. It is not sticking onto it. So to combat that, the student can overleaf with fine tip permanent pen, can write the name, the way it appears on the resume, the email address, the way it appears on the resume, and the phone number, the one that appears on the resume. So even if there's an instance that the photograph is getting separated from the single sheet page, it can be associated to the same sheet later on. Okay? So there are many possibilities and we are covering up every possibility. So you were also right, Pramodna. I'm not saying that I'm just trying to cover up every possibility. Maybe the student not able to scan that time. There's a possibility. So उस time मैं क्या करूँ? मेरे पास कम copies है. उस time मैं कैसे attach करूँ? तो मैं ऐसे attach कर सकता हूँ. I'm just giving you the range of possibilities available. Then we come to the middle block, that is the name. Herein, no title is going to be included like Mr., Mus, or Doctor, Engineer. These are not the part of your names, these are your professional accomplishments. And when we are talking about letter writing, I told you how the title Mr. or Mus has to be used by Shri, Srimati, do not have to be used, and they are not going to come here in any case. Suppose Vivek Kansal here had a middle name, Kumar, and he used that as an initial. So he would write it down like this, Vivek K. Kansal. Okay, that is how an initial is put down. There is no Mr. or Mus or Doctor or Engineer in front of it. Now, if you see, when I start writing the text, The text font is the same and it is very formal. It's New Times Roman or Arial Black. It is not Comic Sans Serif. It is not Garamond because that is not official font. And that font is the same for the entire document. I'm scrolling down. You will see that there are two font sizes. First for the title, like the objective, the skills and awards, along which I'm moving my cursor now, you can see they are in the same bolder font, bigger font size and little bold. The finer print is not emboldened and it is little smaller. The size for the finer print can be from 11, 11.5 to 12 depending upon the font type. For the bolder print it can begin from 12 to 13. Now here in object only once wherein I am writing the name of the product to highlight it, but I am encircling Vivek Kansal's name, you will see there is just a slight difference in size from the objective, from the other headings, so that the name stands out. Because it was not standing out, otherwise if I had retained the same font size, so only for once have I increased by 1 point. So here objective is written in 13 point, Vivek Kansal is written in 14 points, and the rest of the text is written in 12 point of the same font style. Okay? So only once am I going to do that. The third block I come to is the residential address, not the permanent address, not where my parents reside. Even if I'm living in the hostel, I give the hostel address and we write the address the same way with the pin code as we did while writing a letter. Then below it, without leaving a line, because we're saving space, I give my phone number, the phone number on which I receive calls and I answer calls. If I'm not able to answer calls, I at least call back. So don't give a landline number which is going to be answered by somebody else because it seems better. Let the students give their own mobile number even if they're going to answer after academic hours. Okay? And then comes email address. Email address is very important. HR recruiters, especially like me, I can deduct 5 things out of a person's email address even without looking at that person, without looking at the photograph. And when recruiting is outsourced by companies, so these kind of seasoned recruiters, they can tell a lot by just giving a glance, and email address gives a lot of information. For example, students find it easier and convenient to exchange files, heavier files on Gmail. Okay, so they prefer that they should make their email address on Gmail, so that they just so they cannot get a unique email address on Gmail. What they do is they come up with various epithets, suffixes, which are so unusual and sometimes even casting a question mark on their sanity. For example, I had a student who gave his email address as poolgaurav007 because he could not get his first name and last name, which were not unique and uncommon, so he had that. Now that shows that 007 shows that he has a big opinion about himself, thinks himself to be someone like James Bond. Then when I see that on Gmail he's got this kind of an absurd email address, this kind of a name, that means despite being a youngster, despite being net savvy, he has not gone ahead and explored other options wherein with his first name and last name he could get an email address on Ymail, Rediflame, Outlook में. So जो अपने एड्रेस के लिए, अपने एंटिटी के लिए, अपनी आइडेंटिटी के लिए इतना केयरलेस है, वो मेरे काम के लिए कितना केयरफुल होगा. So therein I put a question, raise a question to his casual attitude also, his proficiency also. Yes, then maybe his lazy attitude. It is okay on Gmail. It is so I'll just make an absurd email address. So that person is not mindful of his own image. Will he be mindful of the image of the organization he's going to represent, my organization? Second thing about him. Third thing is, this person does not know a very important professional ethic, and that is having a separate personal email address and a separate professional email address. Why? When I am working in the office, I do not want to be disturbed by personal messages. Also in my inbox, when I open it, and there is a stack of messages, the first line of every message is on display. And in my case, when I'm working on my desktop, a student walks over. I do not want that student to know how my father addresses me. What is the first line he's written to me? I do not want to divulge that personal information to anybody. So that's a professional ethic that I should be taking care of. Also, when I'm proceeding on leave, I am not answering or reporting to any professional messages. And when I'm questioned, I say, yes, of course, because I have a separate email account for personal use and for professional use. This another thing that the candidate is unmindful about these kind of small ethics, will he or she be mindful about bigger ethics involved in working in an organization? Okay. And another thing that is, we should never include any digit or number in our email address. We should be careful about separating our first name and the second name in our email address by using a character like a dot, slash, or underscore. For example, may I take your anybody's name here from Mizoram, for example? Anybody? Ma'am, could you please give me your first name and last name together? Anybody? I cannot hear you, ma'am. Let's see, I cannot pronounce it, and I'm sorry for it. Okay, so when I get this together, the first name and last name together without separation of any character, marking out the difference between the first name and the last name, and I have to write an email to you. I may know your first name, but you know, in a haphazard, in a little bit of a hurry, I might just get any character wrong. It will be difficult for me to tally because I'm not conversant with these kind of names coming from a different part of the country. So the email might just end up going to the wrong person. It might just not get, it might just not reach, it might just bounce back to me that mail delivery system has failed because this email address does not exist. So in these cases, and especially also if we are seeking work possibilities with an MNC, these people outside our country do not know our names. They don't know how to pronounce them. They don't know which is the first name, which is the last name. And suppose just to get a unique email address, I place the last name first and then the second name, or then the first name. People in my country might know wherein the first name ends and wherein the second name begins, and this is the correct person I'm trying to shoot an email to. But this would not be known to people who do not know my name, who are not well conversant with the kind of names that I have been using in my part of the country. So it is very important to have a very good, efficient email address that conveys the relevant information. Okay? And I will not use digit, especially 0 and O. 0 1 भी नहीं लगाऊंगी. अगर मैंने कितने भी पहाड़ तोड़ लिए, सब कुछ हो गया, मेरे को यूनिक नाम मिल ही नहीं रहा है किसी भी पोर्टल पे, मैं 1 या 2 लगा सकती हूँ, which is rarest of rare possibility. Do not ask your students, please ask your students not to put their birth date. Because sometimes for consultancy firms, they outsource recruiters wherein the date of birth is not required, the photograph is not required, because the consultancy firms feels that the recruiters might think that somebody who's experienced is of a greater age will be better capable of giving out consultation to clients. But company's requirement is we want fresh blood in the company. So age, date of birth वाला column हटा दो resume से. This is the specification they would give out. पर बच्चे ने date of birth वहाँ पे डाल email में. And we are able to make out. Normal people are able to make out the year of 92, 94. We are able to make out this must be the year of birth. So that tells, without giving out the information, that already is a point of rejection for them. They could be the preferred candidate. Okay, so no lucky numbers, no birth dates, no birth years, and if digits have to be there. Rarest of rare possibilities, 1, 2, not 0 or O. Because in any font style, 0 might look like O, O might look like 0. And then again, failure of delivery.
Even one thing also avoided because in many fonts it's like L only.
Yes, sir, L, I.
Yes.
It could be anything.
One should be avoided.
One should be. That is what I'm saying. Digits should be altogether avoided. We can begin with 2 or 3 for that matter, which have a very unique formation. Okay. So this done with. Let's move on to objective. This also I want to take time in developing. Any objective is the tagline of the advertisement. Objective can be compared with the tagline. Like Coke says, "Open happiness." So what is it doing? It is giving what the consumers want more than what it is giving. It is not saying refreshness. It is not talking about refreshing drink. It is talking about being opening happiness. Why? Because that is the requirement of the consumers or the customers. Okay. So that is how a tagline is made in a resume also. An objective has 3 parts. First part is serving the purpose or the requirement of the organization. What is it that the organization is looking out of those 3 specifications? Like here Vivek has said, my unique skill set. So he's made an assumption. He could have even said for Reliance, he could have said my exceptional team player skills. But he has gone a step ahead and said, मेरे तो बहुत अच्छा unique skill set है. then we, then the recruiter who's looking at this much of space, all the juicy information here.
मैम बट ये अभी मैं आपकी देख लूँ ये बहुत ब्लर्ड इमेज आ रही है.
Okay, it can work either way, but then that doesn't mean that just to
मैम अभी
attract
मैंने आपकी
attention
यहाँ
we
से
put
देख
out
लूँ ये
some
बहुत
falsehood
ब्लर्ड
here.
इमेज आ रही है.
It has to be corroborated and supported by evidence that we will see when we evaluate his resume,
हाँ
how
जी,
he's
मैम.
done that. So first thing is meeting the requirements of the company. The second thing is besides the requirements which have been investigated by the
कैमरे
company,
की
out
वजह
of
से
your
नहीं
own
आती मैम, वो
research,
इंटरनेट की
your
वजह से
own
आती है. बिकॉज
understanding of the
जो
requirements of
अपलोड
the
स्पीड
company,
होती है ना
what
आपकी
are they,
कैमरे
what
की,
is
वो
it
अगर
that you're
कम हो
going
तो
to
तभी
offer to
ब्लर्ड
the company?
इमेज
So
आती है.
he says they were contributing to the growth of
हाँ
the
जी.
organization because Reliance was looking at expansion at that time. And then not to come across as person who's going to work
मैम
for
एक
charity,
काम
of course
कीजिए
you're going to be
ऊपर,
paid for it. Everybody is. But there should be something else
मैम एक काम
besides
कीजिए
that that
ऊपर
you're
ना
going to
स्क्रीन
look
पर ना
for.
देखिए
You
एडजस्ट
have to
बैंडविड्थ
mention
को
that what are your expectations
ऑप्शन.
from the company. So from
हाँ
this
जी
I
मैम
get
ऊपर होगा
to
स्क्रीन
answer
पर
3 or
देखिए
4 questions. What is your
उसको ना एक
career
बार कम
objective?
करके देखिए.
What will the organization stand to gain by your induction in itself? What are your expectations from the company? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? That is how you can answer these questions, putting these questions in the mouth of the recruiter or the interviewer by the first sentence itself that you get. Okay? And I have to prepare myself for answers for interview according to what I've written. Simple. कहीं इससे दूर जाना ही नहीं है, जो लिखा है इसी में ही रहना है, इसी में ही कंटेंट रहना है. मैं कंटेंट रहूंगी तो मेरा इंटरव्यूअर भी कंटेंट रहेगा. I will not give him an opportunity to go outside. Then he'll say, here you've written this, now you're saying that, you're contradicting yourself, you're very confused, sorry we cannot recruit you. Are you getting me? So that is how this communication is so important. And then you'll see that my unique skill set is the place wherein I've used the first person. I said in the objective and disclaimer I can use the first person, rest everywhere else I will not. I leave a line, the titles and the headings if you'll see, they are not underlined, there's no colon after that, they're just emboldened. And then I have the final print, I leave a line and put skills and awards. Why am I saying skills and awards here, not qualifications? Because qualifications to sabki same hai. Specification. Yes, specification. And that is the page space that is going to be viewed for every candidate. नीचे तो किसी किसी का ही पढ़ेंगे ना वो. So herein the most relevant information. That is how I put my transferable skills. I have bulleted them. Okay, I will not number them. I will not limit myself by numbers. I may increase a lot of numbers. मैं कुछ ज़्यादा ही numbers डाल दूँ. 6-7. Too good to be true. Then I might rub the interview wrong. Or just 3-4. You lack a lot of. So why would somebody number or limit oneself by numbers? So let it be bulleted. Okay, so that the focus is not on the numbers, it's on what is written here. Okay, how do I write it? Exceptional organizational skills. I highlight the skill first. How did I get it? By being a member of various committees. Now you see that this person has, multiple participation. इनकी बहुत involvement है, तभी इनका unique skill set है. पर सभी candidates का इतना ज़्यादा participation नहीं होता है. They just have participation in 2 or 3 activities. Yes, so for them it is not necessary that they club the number of activities. They can even say exceptional organizational skills by being a member of organizing committee of JASCON or whatever. Okay, but then they will not make such a claim in their objective also, na unique skill set. They will make a claim that I have a water gold which is what you require. Okay, something like that. Okay, so from here I have made an assumption. यहाँ पे मैं evidence दे रही हूँ. So in skills and awards, I make an assumption of having organizational skills for which I give an evidence that I have been on the organizing committee of these events. So for every assumption, you should be able to provide an evidence in the form of certificate of participation, certificate of award, or certificate of commendation. Don't please tell your students not to put up false claims. For specifically titles like or headings like strengths and weaknesses, wherein they enumerate for themselves, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses. The recruiter is there to evaluate that for them. They might say they are Superman, then the interviewer will say, "Ud ke dikhao, fly and show it to me. Show me the evidence." Yes, it is as good as making those claims. So let the interviewer deduct for himself or herself what you want him to deduct about you. That you can very carefully maneuver the interviewer to think about you, and that can be done here. Okay, so now we go on that here's one different and ball kind of a game also. किसी ने नहीं सुना और उन्होंने खेल लिया, उसमें वो जीते भी है. And then uske baad he has even contributed to CSR kind of thing. And CSR is a big thing with Reliance, so that is why he talked about it here. Okay, so this is how it is all listed. I leave a line and then I put my qualifications. I put your qualifications and not academic qualifications. Why? Because if you see the last point here is about training. You will see that it is in reverse chronological order with the most recent degree coming at the top. So still pursuing. He was not a BTech. He was not a bachelor in engineering at that time. He was pursuing chemical engineering here. Now the marks were asked by the company. That is why they were given out like this. If there is a different specific format I have told you already, then follow it. Otherwise, do not give information which you can remove, like marks. Let it be a question there that they will ask you. The more anticipated questions for which the answer is easy to give, the candidate is very comfortable answering, the morale, the confidence improves, the participation in the rest of the interview improves because of that confidence. Okay? Also, another drawback of giving the marks is sometimes they come across as a high performer, like in my case. We come across as a high performer, but then I, did not complete my studies in the sense that I did my post-graduation from distance learning. And they said, you've been a scholarship holder. Why did you waste those funds till that time? That interviewer asked me. ठोक के बाद मैं marks लेके भी बीच में इग्नू से पढ़ाई कर ली. I had no answer that time because I was no wise. But then now I know that I wanted to study creative writing. That time no university or college in India was offering a course in creative writing. So I thought I'll learn myself. I got employed with a magazine, started working with them and pursued distance learning just to upgrade my degree. Then if a person has been a consistently low performer, the marks or the performance in the exam is not a proof or validation of their skills and aptitude. Because some students generally get so jittery and nervous when they have to brace the exams that their performance goes out of hand. They are not able to manage it. Another thing is, sometimes they score more, sometimes score less. They come across as inconsistent performers. So already the prejudice is there in the mind of the recruiter. ये तो inconsistent है बहुत. ये हमारे साथ भी inconsistent रहेगा. Then sometimes the students are asked, looking at those kind of marks, in 12th your performance was not that good. 10th you scored well, 12th not good, but first year engineering good. Why? This, novices, the innocent students who turn up for interview, they said, when I was appearing for my interview, when I was appearing for my 12th exams, my grandmother took ill and she passed away. So there was a family tragedy and took a toll on my performance. So if there's something that happens in your family now, will it take a toll on your professional efficiency? How can I bank upon you to be a good performer despite whatever is happening in your personal life? Okay, so these are the questions that we can anticipate, manage, and train our students to answer well. This can be managed through the information given out. Any information, you think that it is not important, but this information is important. If the information is required about marks, so this is how it is given. Completed class 12, CBSE. Now CBSE board name, CBSE. University or board का नाम मैं लिखूंगी. Like मैंने वहाँ पे UICT पंजाब यूनिवर्सिटी लिखा ऊपर. यहाँ पे CBSE.
The course mentioned, they did not mention the course at BTech or MTech. Pursuing chemical
engineering from UICT Punjab University. The company knows chemical engineering is bachelor's. Because the university there is not offering MTech in chemical engineering. Okay, so and the company knows this much. And if you think that the company is not mine, then you can mention you're pursuing bachelor's in chemical engineering. Okay, but let it not be BTech. I want students to avoid unnecessary contractions because it reflects a casual attitude, which I was talking about earlier also when I talked about madam ki jagah ma'am likh kiya. So yes.
This is professional degree, ma'am. So is it wrong to mention?
Now you listen to it. BTech from Punjab University, bachelor's in chemical engineering from Punjab University, which makes a better impression.
This will make better impression.
Pursuing chemical engineering. Yes, that is
if
why
the company is aware, then it's okay.
Yes, that is why we helped him formulate it this way. But otherwise, also if the company is not aware, I would still request you. It makes a better impression. Bachelor's in, masters in sounds better, no? Makes a better impression. That is the only reason. And it's not incorrect. And we just trying to play on the mind of the recruiter. Nothing else. क्योंकि अभी हमारे पास इतना कुछ नहीं है ना. पर जो है उसी को अच्छे से लिखें. That is what I'm trying to say. Okay. Alright. Again, I give the scores if they are required. this way. And then vocational training, they require training, a line about training. So this is how I give vocational training in Department of Process Engineering, this here. Okay. If they want that training synopsis should come, details of training should come. So below this, qualifications, I leave a line and include another heading which says training synopsis. I give the same statement which I've given here, and below it I give 2 or 3 points which bring out the essence of my training. That is what the company is requiring when it says give details of training. So bring out the essence in the form that whatever I did in my training is relevant to whatever is being done in the company right now. So essay points if the training synopsis is asked for separately by the company. Okay, that is how it should be written. Alright. Now some students can even include other courses that they're doing, like a 6-month certificate program, like from Aptex, computers, Aptex certified computer professional, a language that they're learning, a musical instrument that they're learning for which they have a certificate, or any other activity for which they have a certificate even. Not only a degree, but a certificate program also. Degree, diploma, wo to honge. But there's certain cases also, like here one student who was doing mechanical engineering from Thapar University, he got a certificate, first level certificate in German language. And you written it here. When I said as an interviewer, I'll ask you, why have you learned German language being a mechanical engineer? मुझे पता है automobile industry का hub Germany में है. Yes. So he says, because I want to work in a company based in Germany. What are you doing for the interview of a company based in India? Please leave. But this does not have to be answered like this. So through my resume, I managed to answer. So what did I tell that student? I said, you don't need to hide this, but this is going to be helpful to you. You say that I was thinking that whichever company in automobile industry is going to be established in whichever part of the world will have to come in consultation and interaction with any company based in Germany. Then I can fill in the shoes or the requirements for them. Besides that, there are certain magazines related to automobile industry which are not translated in any other language and they come out only in German language. So I subscribe to that particular magazine, one magazine, and I read it to be able to read it and understand it and update my knowledge, keep myself abreast. I have learned German language. Then I said, now is the time for resume building, not writing. So please start subscribing to the magazine and reading. उसमें से 3-4 points हर एक magazine के annually या monthly note करके रखिए, so that if the recruiter asks you, you're able to rattle off those details. And besides, we know the recruiter would not know German language, so you should be able to give out intelligent answers. So that is how through our resume we control our interview. Yes. Again, I leave line and give personal details. This is very important. I can balance my personality, which is otherwise coming out to be very technical or lopsided, by including 2 or 3 things here in my personal details. First thing is date of birth. It will not be dog. It will not be age. Age keeps on changing. Dog is a contraction. Date of birth, August 22, 1992. This is written in American format. If I am appearing for a interview of a company which is based in Europe, in India, or in which has been an erstwhile colony of the United Kingdom, I will write it in the British format, which I have done already with you. Then father's name, Mr. No. Sham Kansi. Space permits, put mother's name also on it. Then languages spoken, not languages known. Because for knowing a language, I need to have 4 skills: listening, speaking, reading, writing. So that LSRW, small footnote, will have to come below English, will have to come below Hindi. Again, that's sparsely worded, thinly worded, coming across as very concise document. That whole purpose will be lost. अगर मैं यहाँ पे सिर्फ एक word change कर देती हूँ, languages spoken की जगह known कर देती हूँ. So to avoid that, I put languages spoken here, and also I can even increase my list by just including 1 skill about a language spoken. For example, in my own case, I can write English, Hindi, Punjabi, Bengali. Languages spoken, English, Hindi, Punjabi, Bengali. But if I have to write languages known, English, Hindi, LSRW, Punjabi, LSR, for Bengali, LS only. Okay, so that will increase the space so much. So to do away with all that haphazard and too much of words, I just change 1 word here. Okay, so please stress upon this. Students think कि कोई बात नहीं, known or spoken same है. No, it's not same. Okay, then I put interest. These are not hobbies. These are not pastime activities. Hobbies are those activities that we do if we have time. In pastime activities are those activities we indulge in to pass away our time. We are not so free. Interests are those activities which we invest our time and resources in and pursue with a lot of passion and motivation. And these are those activities which we think are going to build up our personality. So these are not just random activities. Please tell your students when they start off with building their resume, they can even cultivate these kind of activities which are productive in nature, which are not consumerist in nature. Like reading is a very consumerist activity. किसी ने कुछ लिखा, मैंने पढ़ लिया, consume कर लिया. But if I'm able to apply it in my mind, in my life, if I'm able to deduct something from it and pass on that information to the others, or I develop a taste for a certain kind of a literature and I'm able to project that, manifest that, love for literature by participating in library, organizing literary events or something like that, then reading becomes a productive activity. Then shopping even becomes a productive activity. Why? When I know the latest information about all the products in various shops, online or otherwise, and I'm able to guide my friends and family to get the best deal for a particular product, then shopping is a productive activity. So for that matter, chatting with friends is also a productive activity when I'm able to listen to them, help them come over their problems, guide them in some way or manner, and also develop a sense of semblance for myself that I'm not the only one who's facing problems here. Everybody is. Okay? So that is how we should guide our students to answer questions. Any activity can become productive. Alright. So now here he is included, and now there's a very interesting story here. इसकी activity productive हुई. जब विवेक की हम मदद कर रहे थे resume लिखने में, तो मुझे कहा playing cricket. I said yes, you need to because his personality is very. If you using with treasure and all that marks भी ऐसे से spectacles पहने और बहुत ही heavy set और serious लगते थे. I said I don't think it golf ball जो God forsaken कोई गेम है उसमें अंधों में आप खाना राजा भी बन गए जीत के. I don't think you are capable of any physical activity. इसलिए आप जीते क्योंकि कोई नहीं खेलता. जैसे ओलंपिक्स में इंडिया ने कबड्डी में मेडल जीत लिया, वही ये वो हो गया मेरे लिए तो. So I said I don't think you are capable, and you're working for Reliance. So I will really doubt if you can stand on the shop floor for such long shift hours. So he said that is I want to put playing cricket. I said so you tell me, Gulda, I do not have evidence for this assumption. I do not have participation certificate for this, but this is something which will bring about a different facet of my personality. I played in the corridor of the hostel of my college, and all my friends gathered at this time, and then he rattled off details about gully cricket rules. One tip, one catch, hand is out. One tip, boundary is 4. Direct to the boundary is 6. You can run as many runs as possible between wickets. I said, okay. He said these are globally accepted rules of gully cricket which originated in India and which was popularized by Mandira Bedi on Sony Sports when that cricket league started. I said, okay, that's good. So that gives out a lighter side of your personality and also that you indulge in physical activity. Alright. I said then this collecting currencies or different currencies, देखो कितना लंबा जा रहा है. इसको निकाल देते, इसकी जरूरत नहीं है. This is not. He said this has to be there. I said, why does it have to be there? You know, collecting currencies of different countries. He said, I'll give you the logic. I said, how many countries are there? He said, 12. I said, do you think will not understand that if you can visit 12 countries, would you be interested in working with me? You are going to work with a company. If you have so many financial resources at your disposal, you are going to work in a company just to get training from them, practical knowledge, and then your father is going to set up his own business and an industry for you, and you're going to work there. He said, no, I've not visited these countries. My parents and I have just gone to Nepal outside India. I said, if you've not visited these countries and you have currencies, then I also have a hobby of collecting currencies. Maybe markets खरीद के बना लेती हूँ, कुछ भी बना लेती हूँ, but they know these are actually sourced from their countries of origin. I said, you've not gone, you've not purchased, then how? He said, whenever I come to know of anybody in my known circle or far off acquaintance of an acquaintance who's going to a country from where I do not have a currency note or a coin, I do not hesitate in approaching that person and requesting that person to get a currency note and a coin for my collection. So that shows a lot of drive, passion, so much so that others around him also know that he's interested in doing so. So that shows how much time and resources he must be investing in this. And also he's not shy of making a fool of himself. So he will not be shy of adopting new approaches when he's faced with a bottleneck at work. That is how as an HR recruiter views it. Still, you know, that has been brought about by other things, other participations that you've done. We don't need this. He said, I said, what does it add to your personality? He said, it is a very important part of my life. Whenever I feel dejected, depressed, low, I open this collection and revisit the promise that one day with my own hard-earned money, I am going to visit each of these countries, and the list is increasing, so I better get down to work. So he says, immediately I'm able to pull myself out of any dejection, despair, and procrastination, which is a big problem in students these days, not being able to do anything. So then as an HR recruiter, I think if I have someone so motivated, so passionate and dedicated in my team, he's going to infect 3 or 4 others also. And what else do I need in a good team? I need 4 or 5 driven people who can take the project to conclusion. So that is how it worked in his favor, and that is why it found place in the resume also. And that is how he prepared an answer for the question. So that is how, now we've seen from the analysis of the resume, 10, 12 questions we've anticipated interview में, कितने और पूछेंगे? Technical questions के अलावा और कितने HR questions पूछ लेंगे 15 से 20 मिनट के interview में, okay? I leave a line and put a disclaimer, although we have self-attestation, but just because it is written in third person, the student has not randomly signed the sheet of paper, he has written this statement and then signed. So every information stated above is true. And that is the statement, and here you will see, to the best of my knowledge, the first person comes again here. And then date and place. We leave this empty. Today I go to Delhi for an interview. Date will be today's date, place will be Chandigarh, not Delhi, because I belong to this place, okay? Which I can fill up with my pen. And just opposite across the sheet from date is there space left. That is to put down my signatures, okay? Below it in fine print, not in emboldened print, the way it was in the header, the name comes, Vivek Kansal, very neatly typed within brackets. Then you will see that I have put down the line to mark off the footer. The footer is the exclusive space to the recruiter to put down his comments and reviews about my candidature, so that my recall value increases. So I will not write anything here. It has to be empty at all times. In very rarest of rare cases, does this resume spill over to the next sheet. It will not spill over to the back of this sheet. It will go on to the next sheet. Then again, I will leave the header and the footer line as it is, but the information in the header will not be repeated. There will be nothing in the footer. It will come, and it will not be more than 1/4 of this 80% space. इससे ज़्यादा मैं fill नहीं कर सकती हूँ next sheet का. So sift out information, make it more relevant, make it more concise. Don't make it so long. Then you can decrease the spacing between the headings and various points. That is how I do it. And even if my resume spills into the second sheet, I'm not going to give any page numbering or PTO kind of stunt here, because this is exclusive space to the recruiter. He has to write down. And if you see, once I scroll it again, see, so much space is given in every block so that the recruiter can remember me, can write down comments about me. When he was asking me questions in the interview, whatever I said, he had to write something. Team player, motivated, whatever came to his mind, he could instantaneously register it or note it down somewhere, so that my recall value increases, my chances of getting inducted increase in the organization. So that is all I wanted to talk about resume writing, and within the given time period of 11:15, I have concluded the session. I open the session for any questions, doubt, or queries that may be left there. There's one more thing we can do. I want to say that while writing the statements for skills and awards, we should write statements which bring about action in the person. Highly motivated, driven, extremely developed, highly developed, the way I have written, which show a lot of energy, enthusiasm, and drive around a person. These are the words or phrases that should especially be included in a resume. Okay, let's.